Now, I don't want to overstate here, but I think this reel right here, the Lew's Pro SP, might be the coolest and most useful bait casting reel ever made. Roll the footage. So what makes this reel so special that I would give it such high praise? Well, first off, I have to say this is a specialty bait casting reel. So if you're out there looking for a bait caster that you can go take to your local pond and bomb a crankbait or a Texas rig on a super long cast out in the middle of the pond, this is not the reel for you. Why? The spool itself is incredibly shallow. In fact, here's a regular cast with a jig. Yeah, we're out of line. The spool on this reel only holds about 40 yards or so of 20-pound fluorocarbon line, which equates to about 35 turns of the handle or so to get this thing totally full. So Tyler, if you're saying that because of the shallow spool size, this reel is not the overall all-purpose reel that I need for casting and winding, then what the heck is this reel even for? Why did they make it? Well, the purpose of this reel is to increase the efficiency with which every angler fishes shallow, specifically skipping and pitching, as the SP in the name would suggest. So what does this reel have on the inside that makes it even more special? Well, it starts off with an anodized duralumin 32mm blah blah blah, you don't care. Here are some simple facts. The Pro SP has a 6-pin 27-position centrifugal braking system with a specific orange skipping zone. When the braking system is set to the skipping zone, it reduces the inertia on that spool, therefore making skipping very, very easy. This reel is the easiest skipping reel I've ever used. Easy money. I love this reel. This reel also has high-strength solid brass gears, a 20-pound drag system, and a one-piece aluminum frame. This is a very, very strong and well-built reel. Now, is it the shallow spool that really makes this reel special? And the answer is no. There's lots of bait casting reels out there that have shallow spools, but most of them out there are not designed for what this reel is designed for. Those reels are designed for what is called BFS, or Bait Finesse System, I think. What that is basically the finesse version of a bait caster. So normally you throw your Ned rigs, your drop shots, your spy baits on a spinning rod like I do, but some people prefer to throw them as they do in Japan on a bait casting reel. And in order to best throw light lines, you have to have a shallow spool size. But this reel is not meant for BFS. This is meant for the exact opposite. It is meant for shallow, heavy cover fishing, skipping and pitching. It's definitely a different reel than your standard shallow spool reels. This reel is specifically designed to help you get better at shallow cover junk fishing. Now, what that term shallow cover junk fishing means is basically going down the bank in some kind of watercraft, so a bass boat, kayak, john boat, and just covering a ton of water, making short casts to specific targets like lay down logs, lily pads, skipping underneath docks, not having to make really long bombs of a cast. This reel here is very much a target reel, and so if you don't have access to a watercraft or the bank fishing opportunities you have don't have a lot of water to cover, this is not going to be the reel for you. There are plenty of other reels that are better suited for your needs. Now, before we go on the water and show this reel in action, I want to hop in the boat real quick with 5-time classic champion Mr. Kevin Van Dam himself to hear what he thinks about the Pro SP.
You know, I always loved to skip boat docks, and I felt like I was pretty good at it, but once I got this Pro SP and again, having the right rod matched with it, you just don't get any backlashes. You know, even if you make a mistake and say you hit a piling on the way, or you take it, I'll take it right into a willow tree and just try to crash a frog through it or a jig through it. And if it doesn't go through, you just don't get you know, much of a backlash at all. I mean, it's super easy if you do to pick whatever it is out. So it's just a much more efficient way to do it. If you've ever struggled at fishing boat docks or skipping a bait at all, trying to get your bait into hard to get to places, this is the outfit. Gosh, that's so much fun. Nothing like sliding that jig up there by the wall or under a boat and just having one. It's not a big one, but man, it's just never gets old. When you set the hook, they all feel big.
Now there's one kind of intangible that I can't really describe with this reel, and that is the efficiency factor that it adds for you as an angler. So I say we hop in the water and I show you guys this reel in action and why I think it is the best shallow cover reel of all time. So I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of show you guys a few things about this reel that make it so special that I couldn't really show to you guys sitting down. It's possible that in my sit down portion I touched on these, but I can't really show you unless I'm standing up. There's one. Gosh, holy cow, my gosh, these fish are not letting me. They're not letting me talk to you guys. That right there is some stinking fun, y'all. 3-pounders on docks. Let's go. Chunky fish. All right, before I make my next cast, I'm gonna start talking about what I was going to talk about, and that is the efficiency of this reel. I know I touched on a little bit when I was sitting down, but the beautiful thing about this reel is that the line capacity is small. And so one problem you have, I don't care if you're skipping docks like I am today, or you're flipping and pitching, you're gonna have bad flips. Where let's say, sorry for the jet ski noise, but let's say you go to flip like this, it could even happen from the bank, and you flip and your jig, your creature bait, or your Texas rig lands in the water too early, you get a backlash. Or let's say you flip and you flip way too high, and your reel is not set up properly for a large launch into the air, and you get a backlash that way. The problem with regular bait casting fishing reels is that when you get a backlash, oftentimes that line gets loose and backlashes a lot deeper into the spool than you might think. And so you're stuck sitting there pulling out the backlash for a decent amount of time because you have to get all of that line out, like I've mentioned, to then reel it back in nice and tight. The beautiful thing about this reel is that when you're fishing in and around shallow cover, if you get a small backlash, not only is the amount of line very, very minimal that you have to get out, oftentimes it does not even require what I call a maintenance cast. You guys have seen it in my videos before, where you basically make a big long cast out there to clear your spool, because your next flip, your next skip underneath that dock can be your maintenance cast. And so it just allows for a lot better, time management, fish management, you could say, when you're fishing around shallow cover, because instead of casting and getting a backlash and then sitting here for 5 minutes peeling this thing out, you sit here for 10 seconds peeling this thing out, and then you are getting right back into the action. So it's an incredible reel once you have it spooled up right, because not only does it backlash less, as I talked about, due to the shallow spool, this thing is built correctly for shallow fishing, whether you're skipping and pitching docks or you're throwing it around shallow grass. It is just the best reel for this scenario. Like I can't explain it. Of course, natural fishing skills help. If you are naturally better at fishing shallow and skipping docks and fishing around shallow grass, you're gonna be better with no matter what reel you throw. But this reel here just helps me be so much more efficient, because I'm able to make so many skips that oftentimes, even though I've been skipping docks for a while, I would have a little bit of a backlash, and it would take me, gosh, that was a fish. It would take me a little bit of time to get backlashes out, and in the moment, you don't think you're wasting that much time, but throughout the course of the day, the more docks you can hit, the more laydowns you can flip to, the more XYZs you can get your XYZ lure to, the better chance you're gonna have of catching fish. So I got a tiny backlash, literally 2.5 feet of pulling out, and I'm ready to go. It is just so efficient. I can't tell you guys how much I enjoy this reel. So I say we get back to catching a few more fish. I might think of some things as I'm fishing these docks up here that can help you guys with this reel. As I talked about, having the proper amount of line on this reel is very, very crucial. Do not fill it up all the way to the top like most other bait casters. I leave a little bit of room. That way it has just enough line for, 1 day's worth of fishing with a few reties here and there. And then basically by the end of the day, I've only used 30 yards of line, and the next time I go out, I can have fresh line to go catch some fish with. So I just love this reel. I think it not only saves you money in the long run, it also saves you heartache and time in the now. So let's get back to catching some fish. There's one. Yes, there we go. That's a nice fish right there. Bring it in, my friend. Gosh, you're fat. And power pull down. Holy cow. Yes. Bring it in, my friend. Beautiful fish right there. Hardly ever a backlash. So many accurate and efficient presentations to catch fish like this. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Fix my jig and get back in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this next dock right here and show you guys just how efficient when it comes to switching between flipping and skipping and casting, how efficient this reel is. And hopefully I can make it through this entire dock without getting a backlash one time. And even if I do, it'll be such a short experience that it doesn't even affect my fishing. So just cast underneath the boat lift. That felt like a fish to me, but it might not have been, so reeled in. Sometimes when you have a full spool of line on a regular reel and you set the hook like that, the line can actually dig into itself. So when you go to make the next cast, that line has trouble coming out of the spool because it's kind of dug in there a little bit, and that can cause backlashes. This reel doesn't have that issue because there's not a whole lot of line for that line to dig into. So I'm gonna go from forehand to backhand, and that was actually not great, but I was able to stop it in time. Backhand, perfect, to that little pole there. Give it a hop or two. Reel it back in. We're gonna power pull up. I'm gonna skip as I'm moving underneath that area right there. Give it a few hops. Oh, I see a chain. And chains are great for bass in Minnesota. For some reason, bass love to live around chains. So even though I didn't get a fish on that one right there, I'm gonna switch to a flip, and I'm gonna flip underneath that one. No backlash, perfect. Give it a few hops. And then as I start to go away, I'm gonna do a left-handed flip, which I did happen to miss, and I hit the pole, got a tiny bit of a backlash, but again, pulled it out just like that. Any ordinary reel, I don't care how good you are, you're gonna get a little bit of a backlash here and there, and you might get the same thing on this reel, but it's gonna save you so much time because they are so much shorter lived. Another skip. That fast gear ratio definitely helps. And I really feel like this reel just like helps lures underneath shallow cover. Andy Montgomery designed this thing, and man, he did a good job. And that right there was one full dock brought to you by the Lew's Pro SP. And like I told you guys, sometimes your line will kind of get backed up, and depending on where you start and stop the reel handle, based on where the eye is, occasionally your line is going to get kind of stacked up in the wrong places. So instead of having to make a long cast out to deeper water as a maintenance cast, my next skip is literally my maintenance cast. So now my line is back to where it should be, and instead of wasting time making a maintenance cast, I have made a reel cast that serves as a maintenance cast. So this reel is awesome. I love it. It's genius. Thank you, Andy. You're gonna find yourself to be a whole lot more efficient angler when you have setups that are designed for specific things. I'm not saying go out there and buy 12 setups for everything, because a lot of things can be multi-purpose, but when it comes to this, oh, lots of fish. When it comes to this shallow water, shallow cover, it's really hard to be the best angler you can be without a designated combo for it. And I'm not trying to get you guys to spend money. Again, on this channel, we're trying to be efficient anglers in every way, and part of that is our budget, but I love having a reel and a rod. The 7.4 heavy KVD rod, really any 7.4 heavy is my favorite. Man, you can just do so much with it. I love it. So right now I've got a little bit of loose line from a flip that I just made. So like I said, instead of making a maintenance cast out to open water, I'm just gonna make my next skip. It was perfect, and now my line is ready to be reeled back in nice and tight. I can't say enough good things about this reel. Ugh, yum. Getting a good skip under a dock gives you that feeling like when guitarists have I think it's called stank face. When you hit a note in a real riff so good that you just go like, ugh. That's what I feel when I skip a dock like that. Oh, it's so good. There's one. Hey, got him. Bring it in, let's go. That's the advantage right there of the 25-pound Seagar Invisex. He's not big, he's little ice cream cone bass. But boom, high speed gear ratio, accuracy with the flip. I just love catching fish. Do you all love catching fish? You better.
So if y'all have followed the channel for any amount of time, you've known that I really don't do a whole lot of product reviews, which makes this video so special. You know, I like to go out there and just catch fish and tell you how to do it for yourself, but not always specifically what lures to throw, not always specifically what brands to use. But because I work with Lew's, I have the opportunity to use a ton of their higher end stuff, and this reel being one of the kind of mid-end to high-end reels, and I love it. That is why I'm making a review right now. Now, it's been out for about a year and a half or 2 years,
years, but due to pandemic supply shortages, they have not been able to produce a whole lot of these things, or if they produce them, they can't get them into stores here in the States. And so finally, I think by the time I'm making this video, there is a good supply of the Pro SP, at least on Tackle Warehouse and maybe on the Lose website as well. So if you guys want to check it out for yourself, this reel retails for $199, which, like I said, it's not a budget reel, but it's also not your $300, $400, $500 bait caster. And I think for what it does, it is a workhorse. It is an incredible reel, and I'm super happy to be able to finally show you guys what this reel can do for you and what it's done for me. So that's going to be it for this gear review. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and of course, if you have not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button. If you also didn't know, I recently caught an absolute giant bass, my new PB, and I'm not just talking PB by like a tiny bit. I'm talking about I blew out my last PB with this one. And so if you missed that video, I will leave it linked right up here in this corner for you guys to check out. It's part of my 10 days for a 10 series, which is actually ongoing. Make sure you guys check that out, and of course follow along for all the 10 days for a 10 videos coming out soon. If you want to see me do any more gear reviews, leave those in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys next time right here on TRF.
In Mother Russia, you don't skip duck, duck skips you.